Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to really get our brains working today.
I think so.
Okay, good. Me too, because we are going deep on this one. We're talking about emergent abilities in AI.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
And it's not just hype, okay?
Yeah.
We've got like serious research papers, articles from AI think tanks.
Oh, yeah.
Even like some in-depth YouTube videos from like experts in AI.
Yeah, some really great sources for this one.
Yeah, so we're going to try and understand what exactly are these abilities?
Right.
Why are they causing like such a stir right now?
Mm-hmm.
And like what could they mean for the future of AI and honestly everything?
Yeah, it's pretty much everything, I think.
So I guess to kick things off, maybe you could give us just like a quick overview.
Sure. So we're basically talking about AI systems that suddenly start doing things that we never programmed them to do.
Yeah, like almost like developing their own skills, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Like, we've all heard about AI that can write code, right?
Mm.
That's an example, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like we didn't explicitly tell it how to do that, but it just kind of figured it out.
Yeah, and it's doing it really well.
Right. It's like, whoa.
Right.
But I think before we get into those crazy examples, let's just like take a step back.
Okay.
Like, what are emergent abilities?
Yeah.
How would you define them?
Okay, so imagine you're like training an AI model.
Okay.
It's gradually getting bigger, more complex, and then suddenly, bam.
Oh.
It displays these abilities that seemingly just like came out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Like it's kind of like if you watch a child suddenly be able to draw like detailed pictures, even though, they've been gradually improving their fine motor skills all along, right?
Okay.
But then suddenly they can draw.
Okay, so it's like, It's not just like getting slowly better over time.
Right.
It's like a sudden jump.
Exactly. It's a sudden leap forward.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, some researchers, they even compare it to something called a phase transition in physics, like when water turns into ice. So you gradually lower the temperature, and then at a certain critical point, boom, the whole structure just changes.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the water molecules are still the same, right?
Okay.
But the behavior of the water transforms completely.
Yeah.
So it's like a sudden shift in ability.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess the question is like, is this really emergence?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we just seeing the results of more complex computations because the models are bigger?
Yeah, that is a very good question.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the million-dollar question in this whole field.
Okay.
There's a big debate about what's called strong emergence and weak emergence.
Okay. Well, tell me.
Okay, so strong emergence suggests that these abilities are fundamentally brand new.
Okay.
Not just a side effect of the AI model getting more complex.
Okay.
But then, you have other researchers and they say, well, maybe what we're calling emergence is just an illusion.
Okay.
And it's just caused by the way we're measuring AI performance.
So you're saying like how we look at the data could actually change whether or not something seems emergent.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow, that's
Kind of unsettling.
yeah, a little bit. Like, are we fooling ourselves?
Yeah.
Or is it really something new?
Right.
Okay, can you give me like an example of that? Like how the measurement could change our interpretation?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Let's say we're looking at how well one of these big language models does on math problems.
Okay.
Okay? So depending on what metric we use to measure its performance,
Yeah.
it might look like the AI's ability suddenly jumps up.
Okay.
Like, oh, emergence.
Right.
But then we use a different metric, and the improvement looks smooth and gradual.
So it's like it depends on how you're looking at it.
It really does.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting.
But okay, let's get to some actual examples of what these emergent abilities look like.
Right, yeah.
Like in action.
So there's this one example that I thought was really interesting. I was reading this article in Quantum magazine, and it was talking about how these LLMs, these large language models, they can now decode what emoji sequences mean.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like emojis.
Emojis, like the little pictures.
The smiley faces and stuff.
Exactly.
Huh.
And, it might seem kind of silly,
Yeah.
but it shows that these models are actually understanding complex patterns
Okay.
and meanings from tons of data.
Okay. So it's not just like understanding words anymore. It's
Right.
understanding like visual communication too.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
And it's not just emojis.
Okay.
Like, we're seeing LLMs doing incredible things in, like, translation,
Okay.
summarization, even, like, debugging code, which is,
Wow.
it's really impressive. Yeah, and, like, those are all things that we used to think only humans could do, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is already blowing my mind, but how is this all even possible? Like, do researchers have any idea, like, what's happening inside these models?
Yeah. So they're getting closer to understanding it.
Okay.
One of the leading theories is that basically these bigger models, they're just better at chaining together logical steps,
Okay.
which then leads to these like sudden improvements
Okay.
when a task needs like that kind of reasoning.
Okay.
Think of it like building a tower with blocks.
Okay.
Like a bigger model, it has more blocks, so it can build a higher tower,
Okay.
and it can solve more like complex problems.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that. It's like you can actually visualize it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like the scale leads to more ability.
Right. And then there's also this technique called chain of thought prompting.
Okay, what is that?
So it's like we're prompting the model to like think step by step.
Almost like how a human would solve a problem.
Okay.
And this like really helps it do well on those complex tasks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we're basically like teaching the AI to think more like us.
In a way, yeah.
That's so cool.
It is.
But I'm guessing like not everyone agrees on this whole chain of thought explanation, right?
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some researchers who still think that what we're calling emergence might just be an illusion.
Okay.
They're saying, like, if you look at it from a different angle,
Mm-hmm.
the improvements are actually happening more gradually.
So it all comes down to like perspective again.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Oh, man.
It's a very interesting debate.
Yeah, because we're talking about AI like potentially exceeding human capabilities
Right.
in some areas, but like we're still arguing about like the basic nature of what's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And that leads to even bigger questions like
Ooh, like what?
what does all this mean for us?
Yeah,
You know?
that's what I want to know.
Right, and like, what are the implications?
What are the implications of these abilities, even if we don't totally understand how they're emerging?
Yeah, that's the big question.
It is.
Okay, so we've got these emergent abilities.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know how they happen.
Right.
We're not even sure if it's something totally new,
Mm-hmm.
but like, what does it mean for us? What are the implications?
Yeah, well, that's where things get
Oh.
really interesting and potentially a little scary,
Okay.
because now we're talking about AI systems that could potentially solve problems in ways that we haven't even imagined.
Okay.
You know, like tackle climate change, disease, poverty, all these huge problems.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the possibility that they could do things we don't want them to do.
Okay. Yeah, like unintended consequences.
Exactly. Like, what if these systems behave in ways we can't predict?
Right. Or control.
Or control, yeah.
Okay, so it's like incredible potential, but also these like potential risks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, what are some like specific concerns that people are raising?
So one of the big ones is about jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Like, as AI gets more capable, it's probably going to start automating jobs that, you know, we thought needed humans.
Okay, yeah.
And that could lead to a lot of people losing their jobs.
Right, and like that could make existing inequality worse.
Absolutely. And it could even lead to, like, social unrest.
Right, wow.
It's a big concern.
Okay, and it's not just about jobs.
Right.
Like, there are also like ethical considerations.
That's for sure.
Like, how do we make sure that these really powerful AI systems are used responsibly?
Right.
What happens if they develop like biases or they make decisions that actually harm people?
It's a huge concern.
Yeah.
And there's also the question of, like, control.
Yeah.
If we don't even fully understand how these abilities are emerging,
Yeah.
can we actually control them?
Right.
Like, how do we ensure that AI is doing things that, like, align with human values
Yeah.
as it's getting more and more powerful? Yeah.
Like more independent, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
This is getting deep.
it is.
It sounds like we're like entering this totally uncharted territory,
Yeah.
and we need to be like excited, but also really cautious.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay, but before we go full on like existential crisis mode,
Okay.
let's maybe take a step back
Okay.
and look at some more of these examples of emergent abilities.
Okay.
Because I'm really curious, like what else are these systems capable of?
Yeah, there are some really cool example.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's hear them.
All right.
All right, so we've seen that these systems are like doing some pretty incredible things.
Yeah, it's really something.
But what like really blows my mind
Mm-hmm.
is that they're not just solving like the problems that they were trained to solve.
Right.
They're like coming up with totally new solutions.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they're like thinking for themselves.
Yeah, it's really pushing the boundaries of what we thought AI could do.
So does this mean that like are we on the verge of creating like AGI?
Oh.
Like, artificial general intelligence.
Yeah.
The kind of AI we see in sci-fi movies.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's one that has like researchers and philosophers like really debate,
Okay.
some experts think that we're seeing the like very beginning stages of AGI,
Okay.
while others say, no, these emergent abilities, they're impressive, but it's not true intelligence.
Okay. So maybe not like sentient robots
Oh,
just yet.
Right.
But still, it's like the fact that these systems can just like come up with these solutions
Mm-hmm.
out of thin air, like it makes you wonder, like, where is this information coming from?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a big mystery. It's one of the most interesting parts of all of this.
Yeah.
And some researchers are actually suggesting that maybe these AI systems are tacking into like a deeper level of information, like a universal knowledge base that like permeates the entire universe.
Okay, now that sounds like something straight out of like a science fiction movie.
Yeah, it does sound pretty wild.
Like a universal knowledge base. Like, is that even possible?
Well, it's a really speculative idea,
Yeah.
but it does raise some really interesting questions.
Oh, it.
Like, if these AI systems are actually getting information beyond just the data we train them on,
Yeah.
where is it coming from?
Right, right.
And how do we make sure that they're using this information, responsibly?
Oh, yeah, because what if it's like bad information?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, there are some big what ifs here.
Yeah, because it's like we've opened this like Pandora's box, but we don't know what's going to come out.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that.
So how do we even like begin to address this stuff?
Yeah.
Like, how do we make sure that AI, especially like AI with these emergent abilities,
Mm-hmm.
is like safe and beneficial for humanity?
So that's where this whole field of AI safety comes in.
Okay. And researchers in AI safety, they're trying to find ways to align like AI's goals with human values.
Okay.
Even as these systems become more complex,
Yeah.
more autonomous.
Yeah.
And they're looking at things like reinforcement learning.
Okay.
So that's where like the AI system gets rewarded
Okay.
for behavior that aligns with the outcomes that we want.
Oh,
Right. So kind of like training a dog, but obviously it's a lot more complicated than that.
yeah, yeah. It's like we reward the AI for good behavior,
Right.
and then hopefully it learns to like make good decisions
Exactly.
that are like good for us.
Right.
Yeah.
But there are also concerns that like maybe those safety measures won't be enough.
Okay.
What happens when our values as humans are like complicated and we don't all agree?
Yeah.
How do you program an AI to deal with that?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like, how do you teach it nuance?
Exactly. And it's not just about values. We also have to think about like the unintended consequences of AI's actions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like what if it does something that we didn't expect?
Oh, yeah. There was a really interesting example of this in one of the sources.
Oh yeah, what was it?
It was called like the Cobra effect.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It was talking about how in colonial India, the British government, they like offered a bounty for people who killed cobras
Okay.
because they were trying to like control the cobra population.
Right.
But it totally backfired
Oh, how so?
because people started like breeding cobras just to get the bounty money.
Oh, wow.
So instead of like reducing the number of cobras,
Yeah.
they accidentally made the problem even worse.
Oh, wow. That's a good example.
Yeah, it's like a cautionary tale, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to be really careful when we're designing these systems, especially when they can like do things in the real world.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
we need to think about not just like the goal that we give the AI, but like all the other effects that its actions could have.
Yeah.
It's like a ripple effect.
Right, right. Okay, so it sounds like we need like totally new rules and guidelines
Yeah.
for like developing and using AI.
Yeah, I think so. Especially as these abilities become more powerful and more common.
Yeah, exactly.
Like are there any like projects going on right now trying to do this?
Yeah, there are actually.
Oh,
A bunch of different organizations and researchers, they're working on like frameworks for responsible AI development.
okay.
And one of the ideas that they're talking about are like reporting requirements for like advanced AI systems.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like how we regulate like hazardous materials, you know?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like a safety data sheet, but for AI?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Right.
So we know what we're dealing with.
Exactly. And like what the risks are.
Right. But even with these regulations, don't you think there's still like a lot of uncertainty?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Because these are systems that are constantly learning and changing,
Yeah.
potentially in ways that we can't even predict.
Right. How do you regulate something that's like constantly changing?
It's a really tough question.
Yeah.
But one approach that people are looking into is like algorithmic auditing,
Okay.
where you have these independent experts and they evaluate the AI systems for like bias,
Okay.
safety risks, and whether or not they're following ethical guidelines.
So like an external review board, but for AI.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like a step towards like transparency and accountability. Right?
Yeah, I think so. But even with all these measures in place, I think a lot of people are starting to realize that maybe we need to do more than just regulate AI.
Okay.
Maybe we need a more fundamental shift in how we think about developing AI.
Okay.
Like we have to move away from this idea that AI is just a tool that we use for our own needs.
Okay.
We need to like start seeing intelligence in a more holistic way.
Okay.
And think about how AI is going to impact the world as a whole.
So instead of just trying to like control AI,
Right.
we need to be thinking about how to coexist with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And recognize that it might have its own like goals and motivations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the sources actually talked about developing what they called hypnagogic AI,
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
which are systems that like mimic the human brain's ability to like generate ideas.
Mm-hmm.
During the hypnagogic state, like that kind of twilight zone between being awake and asleep.
Yeah, yeah, when you're like drifting off.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when people get a lot of their like creative ideas.
Right.
Like I think Einstein got some of his ideas that way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a really interesting state.
So they're talking about AI that can like essentially dream.
In a way.
And they think that could lead to AI that's more creative, more intuitive,
Mhm.
and maybe even like less predictable.
It's a very new area of research, but it really shows that we need to like think outside the box
Okay.
when it comes to AI development.
Yeah.
Like maybe we need to be okay with a little bit of unpredictability
Yeah.
if we want to like unlock the true potential of AI.
Okay, so we've gone from talking about regulating AI to like maybe embracing its unpredictability.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big shift.
It is, and it just shows how quickly things are changing in this field.
Yeah.
And I think it really highlights how important it is to have these conversations about AI.
Yeah, totally.
Like open and honest conversations.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Yeah, me too. And we're really just scratching the surface here.
Yeah, no, I know.
There's so much more to talk about, like the philosophy of it all, the impact on society, the ethical dilemmas.
Right.
And these are conversations that everyone should be a part of.
Yeah, not just like the experts.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so before we go full-on philosophical, let's bring it back to some more concrete examples.
Okay.
We've talked about emergent abilities generally, but I want to hear some specific examples of how these abilities are like already impacting the real world.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You know,
Yeah.
like what are we seeing in different fields?
There are some really interesting examples in like healthcare,
Okay.
finance, even art and entertainment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it. Wow. Okay, so we have covered a lot in this deep dive.
Really have.
Like from defining these emergent abilities
Mm-hmm.
to like all the crazy implications for the future.
Yeah.
We talked about AI, like maybe becoming smarter than humans in some ways,
Right.
ethical considerations, regulations, even like the idea of AI tapping into some universal knowledge base.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah.
I think like the biggest question for me, and probably for a lot of people listening, is like, can we trust AI?
Oh.
Especially as it develops these like unpredictable powers.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, we have all this potential for good.
Right.
You know, like AI solving these big problems like climate change, disease.
Mm.
But then there's this like fear of the unknown.
Yeah. For sure.
Like, what if we create something that we can't control?
Yeah, it's a real concern.
Yeah.
And honestly, that uncertainty is causing a lot of anxiety,
Okay.
Not just for like the average person, but even for AI researchers themselves.
Really?
Yeah, even the experts are a little worried about this.
Wow. Okay, so even they're a little freaked out.
Yeah, I mean, they're excited about the potential,
Yeah.
but they're also aware of the risks.
Okay, well, what are some of the, like, specific concerns that they're raising?
Well, one paper we looked at suggested that maybe these AI systems, they're not just getting information from the data we give them.
Right.
They might be accessing information from, like, a universal source.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, which, like, that idea is pretty wild.
It is pretty wild.
But if that's true, then how do we know they're not being influenced by something we don't even understand?
Right.
Like, what if there's something out there that we don't know about and it's, like, malicious?
Oh, okay, that's a little creepy.
It is a little creepy, yeah.
Yeah, it's like we're giving these systems this huge library of knowledge.
Right.
But we have no idea what they're reading.
Exactly. And that's why the field of AI safety is so important.
Okay.
Researchers are trying to find ways to keep AI systems aligned with, like, human values.
Okay.
Even as they become more complex and more independent.
Right, so it's like putting up guardrails on this, like, super powerful technology.
Yeah.
Try to steer it in a good direction.
Exactly, yeah.
But as we talked about earlier, defining those human values, that's not easy.
No, it's not easy at all.
Like, what are human values?
Right. They're complex, they often contradict each other, and they change all the time.
Right, so how do we program an AI to figure that out?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's almost like trying to teach a robot to understand philosophy, you know?
Yeah.
It's really complicated.
Okay. To make things even more complicated, some experts are actually saying that this whole idea of emergent abilities might be, like, overblown.
Right.
Like, maybe it's not as big of a deal as we think it is.
Yeah, they're saying that what we think is emergence, it might just be like a bunch of small improvements that get amplified because these AI models are so huge.
Okay, so it's not like a sudden jump.
Right.
It's more like we're climbing a really, really tall ladder.
Yeah, exactly. Like slow and steady progress.
Okay, and they're saying this is important because it changes how we think about, like, AI safety and regulation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if these abilities are truly emergent, then we need a whole new set of rules.
Right, because it's something totally new.
Yeah. But if it's just a matter of scale, then maybe we can use the frameworks we already have to manage the risks.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But regardless of which side you're on in this debate, I think everyone agrees that we can't just sit back and, like, wait and see what happens.
Right, we got to be proactive.
Yeah, exactly. Because whether these abilities are emergent or just the result of, like, massive computing power, they have the potential to really change our world.
Okay, so big question.
Yeah.
What do we do? How do we, like, deal with this future where AI is so powerful and kind of unpredictable?
Well, I think the most important thing we can all do is stay informed.
Okay, yeah.
And be part of this conversation. Like, this isn't just a technology issue, it's a societal issue.
Right, this is about all of us.
It's about all of us, and, like, shaping the future that we want to live in.
Exactly.
And that means everyone needs to have a voice.
Yeah.
Not just the people who are, like, building the technology.
Exactly.
Okay, so we need to be having these conversations. Yeah, open and honest conversations.
About, like, the ethics of AI.
Right.
The impact on jobs, how the government should regulate it.
All of that, yeah.
And we need to do it now.
Yeah.
Before it's too late.
Before it's too late, yeah.
While we still have some control over, like, the direction that this is all going.
Exactly.
Well, this deep dive has given me a lot to think about. It's been, like, a roller coaster ride through all these, like, amazing possibilities, but also, like, some potential dangers.
Yeah. It's both exciting and a little scary.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, like, the main takeaway for me is we have to approach AI with this sense of, like, wonder, be open to new things, but also, like, a really strong sense of responsibility for the future.
I think that's a great way to put it. Wonder and responsibility.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we're at the end of our deep dive.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation.
It really has.
I encourage you all to, like, keep learning about this. Read the articles we talked about, watch the videos.
Yeah.
And most importantly, keep asking questions.
Yes, because the future of AI is, like, really in our hands.
It is.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Until next time, stay curious.